people will be wearing masks forever. And we will unintentionally keep our distance and more cautious around our elderly. Luckily for us today, we have two knowledgeable speakers to help us navigate through this period of our life. To see that we can figure out well-being going forward. I will hand over by leaving you with a quote from William Shakespeare. He said, "The past is prologue," simply meaning looking back can help us to look forward. All right, so thank you again for being here, and I know that you're in for a treat today. And without further ado, I'll ask Ms. Sanchez to lead us in prayer.
I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Holy Father, as we gather, we give you thanks so that we can come before you another day, not asking for anything but just to glorify your name, Lord. We come giving you thanks for all that you have provided for us, Lord. We give thanks for each and every one of us. Dear Lord, we are nothing without you. So as this webinar goes forward, we bless the presenters, and whatever it is that they are going to give to us, let it be food for us, so that in the end, Lord, you can be glorified. Your name must be lifted up. Lord, we give you thanks and praise for everything that is going to go forward. We commit it in your holy and precious name, because you are God, Lord, and you need no help. You're God all by yourself. So today we lift up your name and we say thank you, Lord. Thank you in advance. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Dr. Carr, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Heron. And and welcome to all, wherever you are. I know some persons are at home and some persons are actually in the library. So welcome to this timely webinar. And I really want to big up, as we have in the library, I want to big up Mr. Heron and his team, our wellness team in the library, health and wellness team, because this is really about them pushing forward with this. Mr. Heron came into my office last week to talk with me. Well, I didn't know it was about this. I was in so many Zoom meetings, and I simply said to Mrs. Smith-Rance, please tell Mr. Heron. She explained to me after what it was about. I said, tell him to go ahead, because his track record has been good. He has been sending us out posters from very, very early. He has been sending out did you knows, how we really navigate this space. And so I was not worried at all that he would not pull together an excellent webinar. I say it's timely because, as he said, the government has, the order for work from home has really ended. We have been coming to the library, however. We've not stopped because we had so many initiatives that we had to be pushing, but not in the numbers that we'll probably see going forward. So I think, as I said in my email last night, the fact that the government has opened the economy and people are going back to work does not mean that the virus is any less dangerous. It simply means that we have to find ways and means of living with it. It means, therefore, that we have to be cautious. We have to maintain the protocols that have been put in place. And we have to deal with all of the anxieties and so that will come with this situation. So I really want to thank Mr. Heron, and I'm hoping that since this is going to be, it's going to be recorded, and it's being recorded, at least we'll get an opportunity for those staff members who may not be participating now to be in on it. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to the speakers for agreeing to talk with staff. And I'm hoping that this will set the tone for the beginning of, as Mr. Heron says, this new norm that we have to have in the library, because we are such a public space in the library that we have to make sure that all our staff members are prepared to deal with this. So thank you all, and thanks to our presenters, and thanks again to Mr. Heron and his team for running with this. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Karen. Okay, so now we are in for a treat because our first speaker is my sister. And I know that you better get your pen and paper out, because it is going to be very good. All right. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker this morning. For the next 20 minutes, we will learn and get at some insight, some secrets from someone who is going to share with us about creating new normal life. This is a subject in which we all should be deeply interested in, because it is avoiding unnecessary stress that can best ensure our healthy future. Our speaker, also having spent almost her entire life advising to other mental states all over the world, grew up in the community of Augustown, so she knows what stress can do. Please join me in welcoming my very own sister, Mrs. Heron Ferron.
Well, Tamar, after such an introduction, wow, what am I supposed to do? All right, but thank you very much. And I want to express gratitude to the UL Library through its team leader for the Health and Wellness Committee, my brother Tamar, for this opportunity to engage with you in this webinar. COVID-19, creating a new normal life, is one that has much currency at this time. And so it is my pleasure. I am going to invite us on a quick journey in looking at, all right, I'm inviting us on this particular journey, and I look forward to the engagement, as I hope you do. First thing I would like to do is to share with you around, and I've tweaked the topic a little bit, because part of what I recognize in all of this is that we do have a lot of information around. We are, for the most part, one would say, bombarded with information. But what I want for us to do today is just to spend a little time looking at me in the process, looking at the self. And so I am going to invite you to participate. Please, I really do like when people interact with me. So even though I'm not seeing you, I would appreciate, getting something in the chat, or just turn on your mic at the point where you want to make a comment and just make your comment. All right, please, thank you. Can we get that done? Yes?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we are agreeing.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so we're going to be looking at COVID-19, balancing my being. And I want to share with you just a quick thought. All you can change is yourself, but sometimes that changes everything. And for this, I would love to get, let me say, 2 participants giving me their feel on this. What is it that this means to you? What is it saying to you? Time to talk. Nobody's sleeping right now. Time to talk. What are you understanding from this? How does this impact on you? Or
I think a mindset. Yeah, a mindset. If you change your mindset, sometimes it changes how you view things. Yeah.
All right.
Jessica is saying the same thing. She says you have to have the right mindset. Wow.
Okay. So it's a mindset thing. It's a mindset thing. Fantastic. And I want for us to recognize that any kind of change in life, must begin with me. So if things are going to change, if I am going to survive and thrive the impact of COVID-19, then there are things that must change. So thank you for your feedback on that. And I'm going to invite you once again just to watch this short clip for me. And then we have a little discussion thereafter. I see seeing change. So let's now explore what would you say stood out the most for you in this video? Any two persons? Hello? Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good
Sorry,
afternoon.
morning.
What's your name?
Nicole.
Nicole.
What stood out for me most was the changes that the EAL had to make to live the 30 years after process of the change. That's what stood out most for me.
Okay, what are your thoughts on these, the process? What's your thought? What went through your head as you saw, you know, the processes? What were they actually?
It was the plucking out of the beak. First, the move to the mountain top, the nest up there. Then the plucking out of the beak. I was thinking, so will he eat?
Right.
But I'm sure he did find a way to eat. And then the talons and the wings, the feathers.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? That is really a rebirth. To go through so much changes.
Wonderful.
But the end result is the keeper. The end result is really good.
Wonderful.
Instead of giving up, you actually fought to stay alive and you get the years to live after.
Okay. Give me the application for you. I'm coming, Teresa. Yes, I see your hand. What's the application for you, Nicole?
Application? In terms of?
How would this apply to you right now in this context of COVID-19?
All right. So for COVID-19, as I've typed into the text group, at first when you hear about the COVID-19, you're very fearful, right?
Right.
You don't want to leave home.
Right.
You don't even want to go through your gate to even maybe just look up or down the road.
Yes.
But I think once you learn all the useful information that is out there, not just any information, but the ones that really are useful and from reputable sources,
yes,
you learn better how to deal with going out, you know, how to be safe while going out, how to be safe interacting with persons.
Yes.
And you feel a bit safer, you feel a bit better knowing that you have all this know-how in staying safe. So it will help you to go out and come back in as safe as you can be.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your input, Nicole.
You're welcome.
All right. Teresa, it's now your turn. And I hope I got the pronunciation of
that's fine. I think what stood out for me is how intentional it all had to be. You had to go to a place and go through a process. It wasn't, you know, I'm sure the hitting of the beak and all of that, waiting for the regrowth, pulling out all of that is a process. It was very intentional and it's a process. And yes, painful. But
I was working on that part.
Yeah.
Yes. Intentional and painful process that he was committed to.
Right.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. Awesome insight. And I'm hoping that as we explore, we get the application for ourselves, contextualizing where we are at. Now the question is, are we in a context of change? We're seeing the PowerPoint still, right?
Yes.
Good. Are we in a context of change?
Definitely.
Certainly. Yeah.
Certainly. Can I hear another voice that I haven't heard? What is this context of change like now? Another voice. One person. Context of change. Work from home several weeks. Now have to make adjustments in going back. No volunteers, no takers.
High levels of stress.
High levels of stress. Thank you very much. High levels of stress. And stress is something we know that we have good stress and we have bad stress. So which is it that we see in this context pulling out from us now? Good stress or bad stress?
Bad stress.
A little of both.
All right. I suppose it's a matter of
It can be good too.
it can be good too. That's the other thing. It can be good too because then it forces you to become creative. It forces you to become very, as we heard from Teresa earlier, very intentional in what it is that you have to do. Another thing I want us to consider is, what are the things that I will need to change? In this context of change, looking at yourself, part of the focus of this discussion is really on you, the self. I want us to be mindful of what it is that I must do. What should I do in order to navigate this new normal? One of the things that I must do, what are the things that I must now change? Can I get a male voice? The ladies have really been responsive. May I have a male voice? And Mr. Heron, I hope you are not the only male in the house. Any other male participants? SOS for males. All right,
I saw Mr. McCoy on earlier.
Okay.
So maybe he can, and he's out of town, so.
Okay, if Mr. McCoy is there, Mr. McCoy, the ladies are voting for you. What are some of the things right now, Mr. McCoy, that needs to change, or that you have to change in moving forward in this new normal?
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now, loud and clear.
Okay, I'm saying we have to make that critical change at the right time in order to survive. Really, the COVID thing now, we have to fall in line with others.
All right, speaking the first person. Tell me what things that you need to change right now in order for you to survive and thrive.
Okay, I need to change my lifestyle.
Okay.
If I used to go out a lot, I have to stay inside now.
Okay.
Because going out means that I might contract this virus and bring it home.
Okay.
So I have to stay at home with my family.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I wanted to recognize, you know, as we have said, in processing this particular video, one of the things that Teresa says is that we have to be very intentional. Change is a painful process. And the things that we must now do are things that will be uncomfortable, but they are necessary for our survival. All right. Sure. Thank you very much for sharing, Mr. McCoy. And I'm sure your family will be happy.
Yes, ma'am. Right. They are.
They are. Okay, fantastic. Okay. Last thing for us to consider. What will the change me look, feel, think, feel, and look like? As we are contemplating, as we are looking at this whole matter of creating a new normal life, we have to have an idea as to what the new me, what will this new me think like, feel like, or look like? Anybody? One body? I'll pay you 25 cents. I mean, yes. Anybody? I just said $25 or $250. Anybody? What will it change me, think, feel, and look like in this era of post-COVID-19? And there won't, and just for the record's sake, there won't be a getting rid of COVID-19 for any time soon. All right, it is here for a while. As with other COVID viruses, shall we say, it is something that will stay for a while. So we have to allow it, it will become part of our normal existence. So how do we think we're going to be thinking, feeling, and looking during this process of treating with and going back to work? One person? Any raised hand? Nobody know what they will?
One person said in the chat that they will be doing less hugs for post-COVID.
Less hugs?
Less hugs.
Okay. Any other thing? Will your thinking be any different? Will how you think about things be any different?
Most definitely.
You have to always be conscious. Think that the virus is around. I think sometimes because we're not seeing, like in Jamaica, deaths.
Yes.
Sometimes we feel, so we have to change our mindset.
Beautiful.
The virus is around, but I don't want to feel like I'm going to be in fear. So I have to also change that.
Very well.
Because I'm not going to be hemmed in all the time.
Yes.
I mean, I heard what Mr. McCoy said, but I'm wondering if it means staying inside, or the change would mean I know what it is like. When I go out, I have to take the precautions. You know what I mean? So it's always like you're thinking, yeah, I'm going, I'm in the library, and I always have to think that it's still around.
It is still here. And
but I won't be hemmed in. I said, okay, yes. What should I do then?
Right.
You know?
So it's having that, for want of a better phrase, that present consciousness that, hey, listen, I am in a particular context. And within this context, I have to be proactive in my thinking, and I also have to be protective in my thinking. As you said, because you don't want to be hemmed in by this sense of gloom and doom, you have to then control your response to things. So the way you are feeling. And if we can control the way we think, we will in fact control the way we feel and the way we respond to things. I'm going to just invite us to go back to the thought that we started out with. And it says, all you can change is yourself, but sometimes that changes everything. So once we're able to change the way we think, it will impact on how we feel. It will impact on how we respond to things. All right? So thank you very much for participating in that exploration. And just for note, the story of the eagle as depicted here is metaphorical, all right? It is used for motivational purposes only. That's my disclaimer. Now let's get to a very serious thought. And I'm very mindful of the time we have. Balancing is the key to creating an extraordinary life. So what I want to challenge you on today for the next probably 6 or 7 minutes is just to be very mindful of self, very mindful of yourself, not getting too caught up because you're information-driven people. All right, you consume information, you disseminate information, you're just steeped in information. And one of the things that I want for us to be very mindful of is this. We all need to create a sense of balance in our lives, in our existence, if we're truly going to be effective in creating a new normal life. So the creation of that new normal life has to do with the extent to which we balance our mind, our body, and our spirit. And so just in our current context, as I said before, and we have all acknowledged, COVID-19 is here, and it ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So it's here. We have to deal with it. Intra and interpersonal relating has changed. The way I think about things, the way I feel about things, the way I behave towards things, the way I respond to things has to change. And whether it's voluntary or involuntarily, change has happened and will continue to happen. The interpersonal relating has changed. No longer will you just be, the library, I suppose, will be a space that is just open and all you need to enter is to show your ID at the door and you gain access to everything and everywhere. That has to change. And so we are mindful that these changes can impact on us in very personal ways. Some of the times the changes will make it appear that we have become almost impersonal, like you don't care about people. But if we all understand the context within which we function, then we will, train our thoughts and train our responses in order to be effective in dealing with the situation. I hope I'm making some sense. Another factor that must be considered is this: I must take care of my mind, my body, and my spirit in balancing my being or balancing my existence. If I am going to get to any kind of new normal, as a matter of fact, just creating normal requires of me a balancing in these three spheres. What then do we mean by our body, our mind, and our spirit? And I'm being very deliberate, because there are times when we just talk and we say, okay, I must take care of my body, and I must take care of my mind, and I must take care of my spirit. And please pardon my my drop into my Jamaican vernacular at times. I presume, and I understand I am speaking to a wide audience. All right, but let us by definition just look at these three things. And my source, librarian, yes, my source, my body. It's that physical structure, the vessel for holding the organs, body parts, and several systems. My mind, the element that governs our mental and emotional aspects. And the spirit, our eternal nature that expresses life's creator. I am very thankful that at the start of this process, we engaged in prayer. We acknowledged, and by that exercise, there is an acknowledgement that there is a God and he ought to be praised. And I use spirit in the sense here just as part of our eternal nature. But if in our spirits, and for all of us, I can presume, one of the things that may have happened to us over these couple of weeks, months, is that we have spent a lot of time with self, and we may have done a lot of self-reflecting. We may have spent time meditating. We may have spent time, just connecting outside of the physical with the spiritual. And so I'm encouraging us today that we're very deliberate in paying attention to our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. Now, in creating a new normal life, we have to understand the connectedness of your mind, your body, and your spirit. First and foremost, or let me pause that. Can anyone tell me, if you have a prolonged illness, what happens to your mind and what happens to your body? One volunteer. If you have a prolonged illness, what happens in your mind and what happens in your spirit? Any takers? May I volunteer?
I believe, this is Nicole.
Okay, go ahead, Nicole.
I believe persons that get sick for an extended period of time, after a while they might start to give up on themselves, starting to feel depressed, and they start to give up. And once they start giving up, that's when they actually get worse. They normally get sicker, to me.
Yes.
That's my take.
That's your observation.
Yes.
And what tends to happen in terms of their spirit? When you go around them, if
they're dull, they're not happy, they're not lively, they're not vibrant. So it affects the spirit also.
It affects the spirit.
Yes, in a negative way.
In a negative way. And that is what I want to bring to your attention. Listen, and thank you very much for that contribution, Nicole. It is of paramount importance, ladies and gentlemen, that we are deliberate in paying attention to what is happening in our minds, our bodies, and our spirit, because any significant change in one is going to impact on all the others. So COVID-19 is here. So if my thing is that, you know, I run around saying, you know, I'm not touching anybody, I'm not going to touch anyone, I'm not going to interact with people, I'm not going to talk to anybody, I'm not going to invite anybody to my house. After a while, when you do that, you start becoming very lonely and alone, because people are going to avoid you. And then you're going to start thinking, why is it that people don't like me? Is it something about me? And you might even want to go diet or go, you know, or you might go start eating, you know, as you never used to. And so it starts impacting on your body. So what goes on in the mind will impact the body and the spirit. So I want for you to understand, during this time, you have to be deliberate in taking care of your mind, your body, and your spirit. We must give sufficient attention to each area to maximize your growth and functioning. If I don't spend sufficient time taking care of my spiritual being, it will have implication for my physical and my mental state. If I don't spend time just being away from people and things and the pursuit of everything and just be still, just being still, and just recognize that, you know, there is a God that we ought to, you know, to honor. If we fail to give attention to that aspect of our existence, we are going to experience, as I say, as I point out here, we're going to experience some decay. So the challenge for us as we are creating a new normal life is that I must seek to find balance in all that I am doing. Now, what are the guides? Take care of your body, what you feed it. If you eat too much KFC for too long, you shall surely be paying half of your paycheck to the doctors every month. Guaranteed. If you spend too much time, you know, if you don't feed your body right, if we don't feed our bodies right, we are going to pay the cost for it. We need to exercise. So part of the new normal we recognize is that we have to spend time to exercise. And earlier in life, I mean, I remember probably from the 90s or so, or the 80s, there was a slogan that says, eat right, exercise, and take Geritol Complete. I don't know if I'm showing my age or something, but, you know, we have to take care of our bodies. Pay attention to what we're feeding our bodies. Ensure we get the exercise that we need. Ensure we go get the checkup. I mean, go visit the doctor. I mean, right now you have to be very mindful, but still, pay attention to what is happening in your body. Be mindful of what you're feeding your body. The second thing is take care of your mind. Pay attention to what you're feeding your mind. If you concentrate on things just being doom and gloom and nothing ever works for me and boy, I cannot take this and I can't do that, it is going to impact on your functioning. If we fail to give attention to what we input in our minds, then we are failing to become the very best version of ourselves. So I'm imploring us, pay attention to reading, reading those things that will, make you laugh at times. I mean, feed your mind some healthy, happy things. Feed your mind the things that will keep you positive and energized. What you feed your mind has implications for everything else in your life. The third thing is, take care of your spirit, what you feed it. If you feed your spirit on negative, dark, ugly things and things that just seem to consume you, consume your energy, your whole being is going to be impacted. Your diet in these areas literally determine the strength of your bones. So as you're seeking, as we are seeking to create this new normal life, I am challenging us on an individual level to take care of self. We have information on how to, sanitize the workspace and to, organize the workspace. But part of what we often fail to do is spend that time to take care of self. Coming to the end, almost finally. I thought of two passages that I just want to share. You can reference them later on. But it says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. Brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Philippians 4:8. Ladies and gentlemen, I want for us to really and truly, stop today and take stock of what we're doing in terms of our mental state, our spiritual state, and our physical state, because that is going to be the key to what kind of future we have. And I'm just saying, COVID-19 is here to stay. I must change to survive and thrive. When I take care of me, I take care of you. And ladies and gentlemen, a new normal task is to wear your mask. And with that, I say thank you.
Wow.
Okay.
I told you that you were in for a treat.
Okay.
It has been very, very good. It's almost as if you have been reading or seeing or did you knows, because this is what we preach in the Health and Wellness Committee. To take care of self and the mind, take care of the spiritual being, because that's where it all begins. Because without you taking care of you, it's just like in the plane. Put your seatbelt, put your belt on first, and then you assist the others. It's the same thing with the spiritual being.
Yes.
Taking care of the spiritual being, and everything else will fall in place.
Right.
This was a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, sis.
You're most welcome. And I'd love to hear from one or two of the participants.
Yes, we are going to have the floor open for 2 minutes of question and answers. To remind persons that any questions that you may not have right now, or we don't want to ask at this very moment, you can send me an email and it will be forwarded to Mrs. Heron Ferrand, and I'm quite sure you'll get an answer to that in short order. I'm just looking at the chat. We're getting some lovely comments, thank you, some great job, and the rescue staff, a whole compliment. We'd just like to thank you for the presentation.
All right. Thank you all very much, and it was my pleasure. And I do hope that as we move forward in this new normal, that you pay attention. The world is smaller than we think. And when I take care of me, I take care of you. God bless you all. And thanks for the invitation once again.
Thank you very much for sharing. It was really indeed a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Wow.
Let a day pass or two before you deal with it. Yeah.
I told you.
So
go ahead.
And the questions are finished?
Oh no.
No, you can go ahead with your question.
I don't have a question. I was just
okay. All right, go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
So I'm just here now, just checking to see if all the questions were through. I'm going to do my thank you. So Mrs. Aaron Ferron. Hello?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. On behalf of the UA Mona Library Health and Wellness team, And the members of staff, I'm expressing gratitude and appreciation for taking the time out to help us as a team to understand how to, in quote, balance in my being, right? The care we need to take of our mind, body, and spirit, and the connection it has in our wellness, right? So thank you very much for taking the time out, as I said, and thank you for the information. It was well, what should I say now? Received. It was well received. All right. And I'm sure it has led everyone to start making a change, thinking differently.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. It was my pleasure. Bye-bye.
All right, so you see, one of my favorites, did you know, is helping one person might not change the world, but it might change the world to one person. It just goes to show, about not thinking selfishly, but always thinking of how we can enhance those who are around us. Thank you very much. This will lead us to our next presenter, our very own Dr. Shields from the University of the West Indies Counseling Unit. And he too is someone that I know and have worked with personally. And I have been sent and I have a long intro for him. And I will not do that because his work speaks for himself, speaks for itself, right? And so we're in for another treat. So I invite you to sit back and relax and grab your pen and paper again. It's note-taking time. Dr. Shields, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. And hope you can see me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you, Winsome. Veron, that was, I think you stole some of my presentation. I don't know what to talk on now.
We call it divine intervention, my brother. We speak the same thing. You recognize the space we're in. Yes.
So I'm going to present on some practicalities with returning to work, because it's when we're having a pandemic, it can be a place that can cause some stress. And I'm going to go through that fairly quickly. And then I want to talk about dealing with the pandemic, the stressful part of it with our families. Because being at work, the situation at home is going to impinge on us, and we're going to take some of that stress one way, either from work to home or home to work. So those are the two. And like Mrs. Veron, you can interrupt at any time and ask a question. If it's not psychological, I won't have an answer for you. Like how can we get some more pay from UE? I won't have an answer for that.
That's funny.
So if I press on this, it should work, right?
Yes.
It's working. We're seeing your screen.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And are you seeing the next screen?
Well, I
No,
don't.
No, I'm not.
Not the next. I'm not sure.
New normals, rules for engagement. Are you seeing that?
No.
No, I'm not.
Let's see.
Yes, it's coming up. Yes.
Right. So you.
Yes, you can go back. Yeah, because you're on the third one now. Yeah.
All right. So this is just a joke. The ones who left the earth the other day don't have to deal with all of the tension that the rest of us will have to deal with. So congratulations for them for taking the better thing the other day when they went up in SpaceX. So, but the rest of us don't have that option. We have to stay here and deal with what is going on. So I want to focus on 4 things about work. So first is know the facts. The second is establish that you are going to abide by the social distancing norm. And then I highly recommend that you, during this time, you limit your social media use for getting the news. It is just coming out over and over that that's an area where people's stress levels are going up. And then in this whole thing, we want to establish a new normal plan to stay healthy. The one thing I'm going to say over and over is that we have to rethink and react. It can't be business as usual. And there's a mantra that I recommend, which is, I have something to say about my COVID world, and I have something to do about my COVID world. Which is to say, we're not going to wait for things to be done for us, nor be told how to think about what is going on. We have to get some knowledge ourselves, each of everybody involved, and we have to be intentional about how we're going to act about it. And we have to let people know. People cannot read our minds. We're going to say, I am COVID conscious, and I'm abiding by the things that are put out there for us. So I'm not going to go through this slide. There is pertinent information on the COVID, the proper name for it, SARS-CoV-2. We should take some time to read it, because the knowledge is going to lower our anxiety. It is not as bad as some of the social media puts it out there. And the spread of it, the information that is there is very relevant and will be very helpful to lower our anxiety. So everybody has to, during this time, take some time to do some reading up on it. You know, during the days when we could take the plane, and if you get on first and you see some people coming in and they're not sure how to put their suitcase in the overhead compartment, you say, who gets on a flight and doesn't find out anything about what the plane is like and where you put things? Well, there are people like that. And they become very conscious that everybody is looking at them. Some people start to say things to them. And so we have to step out of that attitude. So each of us has to, with the interest of lowering our anxiety, do some reading for our own on it. And fortunately, our government is putting out some very good information on this. This is where I got this information here. There is no normal response to a pandemic. I want that to sink in. There is no normal response to a pandemic. So this new normal is talking about how we're going to exist in this present situation. And I'm not a prophet, but I don't think we're going to stay in the same place forever. Things are going to constantly change. And there will become new normals after a while. And please take this part away. There is no such thing as common sense. We do ourselves and others a disservice when we say it's common sense what you need to do during a pandemic. There's nothing that is common sense. So we have to get informed, and we have to let others know that what are our rules of going through this pandemic. We have to let others know. It's not common sense that you should know, yes, there's a pandemic going on in Jamaica, so everybody's abiding by the same restrictions. No, it's not common sense. And don't expect others to know that. So don't expect others to know that about yourself. Don't expect others to know it. Have to declare this is how I'm operating now. And when you're in my space, this is how I expect you to operate. And people are going to react differently to what is happening. And this is going to be an irritant when you get back to work. People's reaction to coming back to work, people's reaction to what are the restrictions that are being put on, people's reaction to that we're still calling it a pandemic, everybody's reaction is going to be different. And there is no, you should be reacting this way, or you should be feeling this way, or you should be thinking this way. There's none of that. We have to allow people, as long as we go along with certain guidelines, to have they either look like nothing is bothering them, or they look like they're about to fall apart. People are going to react differently to this. So in everything, we always have to, when we see something that is out of place, we always have to stop. We have to think and consider relearning a way to go forward. Because like I said, this new normal is not going to be normal forever. So we're going to be, during this time, relearning and redoing the way we do things. And that can be very stressful. People get tired of it. Some people want, not everyone wants just a common uneventful life. It's going to be harder for those persons going forward. So knowing the facts, there are some credible places. Like I said, you can bookmark the Ministry of Health information, and LHEWco is sending out some very good announcements also. Bookmark those. I would recommend, in terms of finding out what's going on in your office and the changes there, that you have a broadcast system, like WhatsApp group. That little comment there about the night Christians access to making posting. When people start to put their morning prayers and their I wish you well and all of that in the news broadcast, then people are going to stop reading it, and it defeats its purpose. So in terms of bringing the workforce, keeping them informed about what's happening, and lower the anxiety about, when I go to work today, what am I going to expect? I heard a rumor about something. An official broadcast about that is much better. But people are going to stop reading it if everybody starts to put their little favorite thing in there. So talk in your offices about establishing a system to get information out. And it has to be just business related to the pandemic. And then because home life can affect work, you have to explore ways to bring your home life into a way that it reduces stress. And I'll talk about that in the next presentation. So a reminder, nothing is common sense. Do not assume that each person, including yourself, know how to negotiate. Social media, public interaction, transportation, the workspace office, home and living space. Do not assume that people know. So even in taking the bus, everybody should know that you should scatter and they have the social distancing, and you shouldn't be singing aloud on the bus or whatever. Do not assume that people know that, because it's just going to, when they're not abiding by it, it's just going to raise your anger level. So this is a time that we might have to find ways to say something like, remember we're observing social distance, or something that is non-threatening. But we are going to have to be more involved in keeping ourselves safe and keeping our sanity. And in terms of interaction at the office, there is no common sense about how it should be done. So you have to have meetings, either the Zoom or otherwise, and talk about what is the new norm in the office. It has to be publicized. And you cannot say that LHEWco put out some information on how the offices are supposed to be, that's not enough. And so people, workers, are going to have to insist that that is done. If it hasn't already been done, when are we having a meeting about our procedure in our office? It has to be brought up. So I'm recommending that you don't enter your workspace until you know those things. What is our office procedure? And you can take some comfort, I can't promise that you won't get fired. You can take some comfort in knowing that there are recourses for that. So there are places that know that you can report when things are not being followed. That's not to stop your manager from finding a way to get back at you and getting you fired. But this is the time for us to speak up and speak out for our own safety. And this is the thing that I was saying earlier. Establish that you're going to abide by the pandemic health rules. And establish when people come around you that I'm abiding by the pandemic rules, and I expect you, when you're in my space, to abide by them. Because people will come behind us brush. People will not know if you are saying, hey, I'm not following everything. You can hug me whenever you want. You can shake my hand whenever you want. You can just take things off my desk whenever you want. People don't know what rules you're following. So every one of us has to speak it out loud. I am abiding by the pandemic health rules. Let people know that. Because it's not natural for us to keep our distance from each other. It's not natural for us to not want to interact. It's not natural for us to not want to talk to people. It's not natural. So we want to keep the distances when we're at work, but we have to let people know why we're doing that. And people need to be reminded of that. And people need to know that I expect you, when you're in my space, that you're going to abide by those rules too. Do not leave it up to common sense. Say it. Make it be one of your mantras. The Ministry of Health put out some guidelines for the office space. They're there. You can take a snapshot of them, or as you have bookmarked the Ministry of Health place, you'll get this information. Bring it up at work. What is our procedure? What is the new normal for getting these things done? So do not wait for your manager to bring this up. Ask.
Dr. Shields, what is effective risk communication?
That's a wonderful question. So it's the whole thing about talking in your face, meeting in tight quarters, to know how to have communication that minimizes the spread of the virus. The Zoom meetings, the social distancing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And thank you, Vaxman. I was just about to ask if I'm still being heard.
We're following. We're following. Mm-hmm.
So in a bit of a recap, so each business work location needs to publicize back to work plan. By publicize, it doesn't mean to the whole of Jamaica. It's to the workers, and it is essential that we ask each other: have you seen and do you know about the back to work plan? Because you want to know, for your peace of mind, that everybody's operating on the same table with the same information, with the same knowledge. So you want to know what's going to be in place for the workplace, the layout, who will interact with whom, in terms of carrying stuff, everything that can be a risk when we communicate in touching, speaking to each other too closely. All of those things have to be spelled out how it is done. Because if just one person decides that he or she is only going to be the only person who is observing social distances or careful practices, that person is going to get a name, that person is going to be ostracized. Why is that person taking things too seriously? So it has to be at the corporate level, it has to be at the office level. And if it is not there, each person who works there, for your peace of mind, has to say what is our policies. So you're not the only one who will say, I don't want you coming to my desk and handling my stuff and borrowing my stuff or using my stuff. You will not be the only one who say that, because physical contact can leave the droplets there. Don't presume that people know that. It has to be said. The reason you can't handle other people's equipment is because it's one of the ways that the thing is spread. What I keep repeating is that for your peace of mind and to lower your anxiety, you need to know how it is spread, and then you need to know that your office is on the same page as you in terms of getting that information out there. And just use the mantra, there is no common sense about a pandemic. And even though we have a no informer culture, this is one of those things that you have to bring up. So-and-so does not seem to know our procedure. You're not going to say, him nah follow it or she nah follow it. You're going to say, so-and-so doesn't seem to be aware of our procedure or office procedure, but it has someone, and preferably the supervisor, has to speak to the issue. And again, the reason is to lower your anxiety about that and to know what is the new normal, and to have confidence that and reassurance that others are aware of the new normal. So don't make anybody tell you otherwise. Know what the plan is and know what it is, how you're going to report when the plan is not in place. Who do we talk about this? How do we get this done? So, you know, in Jamaica, we like to say that with a lot of things, that's how we stay. And even if it's going to kill us, that's how things stay. But one of the things you have to kind of get out to people with this is that me and you're not there. So I'm the man in the social distances, that you don't handle my stuff. And the truth is, oh, somebody's just reading the text. And the truth is, we're not all created equally. So you can cough on your friend and it make him stronger. But if you cough on me, I might dead. We're not created equal. So out of respect for that, you have to observe the hygiene rules that are in place. And again, the people that you serve, your customers and visitors, don't expect them to know common sense. The other day, I went to Mega Mart and there were lines there. I just went into Mega Mart to get something and come out. Never noticed a line on the floor, went up to the counter. The woman paused and said, we're observing social distances. You are to keep behind that line. I looked down and sure enough, the line was there and I stepped back. Don't watch your face, just go back to your place. If the customers or the visitors vex, for them problem. Don't presume that everybody have common sense about what is to be done. So not only with co-workers, for your peace of mind, when somebody come and invade your space, a visitor or a customer, don't be there getting angry saying, boy, them should have known better. No common sense during this time. The new normal is we inform. People talk more about. There are norms that we're following. I'm following them. I expect you to follow them. And the longer we stay together, the more we will have in common. And what we'll have in common is the COVID. So the whole thing about flexi hours and the social distancing, it has to be brought up in your office that everybody's not there at the same time. You have to talk. The new normal is how to, with your workforce, minimize overcrowding, minimize having a herd. And again, it is not common sense. If I'm working from home or I'm coming in at a different time, what are my tasks and what is supposed to be the outcome? So you might hear, if you don't ask, you should have known that you should have done this, or you should have known that that's what is being expected. No. Once with the new change, with the flexi hours, again, talk about what are my tasks and what are the outcomes that I'm supposed to have. Leave nothing to the imagination, and do not say it is common sense that you should know what to do. And then you need, once we're going through these changes, you need to have some social connection and to talk about this. You should not go through this alone. You should not think, I can adjust to this. Everything makes sense. I can do this. Talk about just, you know, this is new for me. I am doing things a little bit differently, even if it's mundane and just don't seem to, and just seem to you to be trivial, still talk about it. Whenever we're going to change, we must talk about the changes. We must talk about the different things that are happening. So reconnect with friends on social media, or, you know, meet up in somewhere public and stay a meter from each other and just say, hey, I'm here to talk about the things, how things are different, and just say it. It is critical that we hear ourselves talking about, I am readjusting to a new way of life. All right, that's the first presentation. I think I should pause for comments.
Can I just go ahead and make a comment or ask a question?
Please do.
Okay, well, first I want to say thank you for the presentation, especially that part about how we operate in the office and establishing your own, well, not your own protocol, but making it clear that you are following the standards, because for me, it has been an anxious situation, because I feel like I'm the mask police, constantly telling people to keep on their masks. So I think while more persons know here in the presentation will pay closer attention to it, even though we have the organizational guidelines in place and all persons have been told about it, there are still persons who, either because it's uncomfortable or, right, mainly because it's uncomfortable, or they have their own beliefs about the use of a mask or other protocols, physical distancing, may not want to always adhere to it. Now, you had suggested that we maybe report them. I don't know if that is going to make me any less anxious, because it's people who are generally cooperative and who generally carry out their work in a good way. So it's not, I guess I'm still saying I don't know how comfortable I am, and it makes me anxious that not all persons will obey all the protocols, or you will find yourself frequently having to guard against, which is what is happening with me. If I'm in my office, I have, as somebody is coming, it's like I have to get alert to the person either not touching, or are they wearing their mask. Some persons may be wearing it, but their nose is out. So on a daily, not daily because I don't come in daily, but whenever I come into the office, I'm faced with that. It makes me anxious, and I'm glad that maybe persons now will listen a little more, but I don't know if the reporting will work, and I still don't know if I'm comfortable that all persons will obey and try to make the situation as comfortable as possible for all of us in this space. I don't know if that's a question or a comment.
It sounds like a comment, and I'm glad you made it. So what I hear when you're speaking is that there is a discomfort, and the more you don't confront the person and let things slide, the longer that discomfort will happen. But then you have to balance that with our cultural norm, which is not a new normal, it's just a normal for us, that we're not comfortable with reporting. So once it's established from the beginning of the business hour that this is the new normal for going forward, we're going to have certain hygiene things in place, mask is expected, social distancing, and persons who are not observing it will be confronted by the supervisor. Once those things are established and you ask for those things from the very beginning, then it is going to lower the problem with that happening. So find a way to discreetly say, I've noticed that so-and-so tends to not be observing, putting the rest of us at risk. Could you, then you don't have to say, could you speak to the person? That's the supervisor's responsibility. And the supervisor has to do discreet. It's been observed that you're not observing the COVID protocol. Once you're in this office, you need to. So you need to balance your continued anxiety about the person behavior impacting on you negatively, as opposed to doing something that may have the person respond favorably to abiding by the rules.
Thank you. Well, just to clarify that I do speak to them, and usually they will abide at the time, but it's just that afterwards it gone back and then they forget, and so you're constantly reminding persons.
Right. So I guess your new normal is that
in time the new normal will come in for everyone.
Yeah. So I guess your new normal is that you can't just say it one time. You will have to be, like you said, you were the mask police. You will have to be the reminder police.
Yeah, I'm thinking of closing my office door and only opening it when persons are coming in without their mask. That's my step 2.
Could it also be, Dr. Shields, where we tend to oftentimes revert to what we are accustomed to, and also are a bit paranoid, so to speak. Hope that's not too strong about how we manage things, how we deal with things. It can't happen to me. It's not in my space. We have nothing to worry about. And not thinking about the different persons that we interact with on a daily basis. And it's not just the taxi that we come into, or we pick up somebody on our way to work. We don't know how many persons they have been in contact with. And so, we just have to take the necessary precaution to safeguard our space. And as you said, speak up about it. Because sometimes people do need reminders, and the mass police, so just keep reminding people, keep saying it to people, and then the organization, the relevant authority will have to play a role, and that includes management, unions, and the supervisors at all levels. Then need to speak to the individuals, because it's not something that we need to take lightly, because just one more case and then we're talking about another 3 months of lockdown, when it can be simply avoided by wearing our mask and following the necessary protocols that are in place.
Right. Ms. Heron, thanks for that. The old normal is that we just mind our own business and then wait for things to get better. And then when things really get bad, then we protest. We can all gather together and say we want justice. The new normal is for us to talk up. And it starts with just saying, I am observing to say it aloud to people, I am observing the restrictions, I'm observing the policies, and I expect those around me to observe it.
I'm seeing it in the comment chat here, someone is saying that there should be no admittance without the mask. So persons should not enter the building without wearing the mask. I think that is a protocol, because I think the government has that in their guidelines, and the UE task force also have that in their protocols. So it's just for us to adhere to the rules, you know,
Right.
Not being quote unquote Jamaican, but actually adhere to the rules that are in place for the safety of us all.
Right. And it will make it easier for everyone to go along if at the beginning, have the office meeting to say we are going to abide by these rules, and put that one out there. People coming into the building have to have on a mask, the government, so everybody knows that the knowledge pass is important. This is what is expected. But if it is said in the meeting that these are the protocols we're observing, everybody knows about it. And it will fall on the supervisor in a month's time to just notice if people are slacking off and just repeat that. Because it's in our nature to slack off on things, you know. We want things to go back to the old normal.
Right.
All right, can I run through the family stuff?
Yes.
Sure.
All right, so there's a prediction that there's a second wave coming, and we've all lived through in our families in the first wave of the COVID, and we know a lot now. We know a lot more about our families now. We know a lot about how we feel about each other, and who cares about me and who don't care about me, and what will work and what won't work. So what we want to say is, where things were just disruptive, we cannot go through that again. So once it's announced that there's a change, and one change is back to work, so there's going to be a change of movement in the family. There's a new situation now in the country. The family has to talk about the rules of engagement for the family. And I'm going to say in this, those of you who are here in this webinar, because you're in the webinar, it falls on you to be the one who say to the family, we're going to talk about this. Because common sense is not going to let everybody say, oh, we need to talk about this enough. So yeah, the errors that were made during the first wave, you can give that to say, listen, we went through this, these are some of the problems that we had. I don't think we dealt with things. One of the things that we didn't do is we didn't talk about how as a family we're going to do it, how we're going to do this. And so the first thing you want to say is this pandemic is stressful, even for the persons who are not showing it in the family, and not just the ones who might be screaming or trying to break the curfew or whatever. Everybody's going through some level of stress. Just let's put that out there, and just I don't need anybody to chime in and say, yeah, oh yeah, it's true, I feel stressful. No, it is out there. It's the human norm. We're going through a big thing in the country. It is very stressful. Let's just admit that. You don't know in your family, they say the oldest people are most vulnerable, but we are hearing of people who have all sorts of disease, get the disease, and nothing happens to them. It's one of these mystery. This is some mystery to the virus in actually how it infects and all of that. But it is killing people. It is with complications and so. So we don't know who is vulnerable. We don't know if there are people in our family who is vulnerable, and we want to say it out loud. We need to be conscious of that. That we, even if we don't know how to say it, I love you and I care about you, we need to say as a family unit, we're going to do something about protecting ourselves. And the thing that's the physical hygiene information that is out there, we don't need to reinvent the wheel on that, you know. We know what we have to do, so it has to be discussed and say, yes, our family is going to do this. One of the slides in going forward, I put in there that we can put a decontamination room at the front door. Everybody has to strip and be decontaminated before they come into the house. That's just a joke. We don't have to go through that, but the nitty-gritty of the physical hygiene has to be discussed. This is what we can afford. This is places where we're most likely when we come into the house or whatever. All of it has to be laid out. And it doesn't make sense to put the burden on one person to do whatever. It has to be put out there. And then we know what families can be like. So one person will say, I don't feel like doing that tonight. I think we're going too extreme. Talk about it. And so the goal is not to all come to a consensus and hug and kiss each other and say we're a happy family. The goal is to talk about physical hygiene. So it is on everybody's mind that our family is aware and conscious of this. There's going to be resistance and it's going to call for another meeting. But for now, the goal is just to talk about it, this awareness. And then I want to talk a little bit more about mental hygiene. So this is going to need the most discussion. And again, I am suggesting that you have one discussion, make it time limited, and plan to have another one in a week or two. So lower your expectations about what should come out of the discussion. Just have it, and here are the topics that I'm suggesting. So one thing that might happen, you'll hear these things. My family never talked about COVID, and you might hear something like what Trump would say: if we don't talk about it, everything will be fine. And then some families might say, we never cared about each other before, why start now? And then all of the little hurts that have been there for a long time, I've never felt part of this family. All of those things might come up and you say, I'm sorry to hear that, we're going to have a discussion. So like I said before, because you are at this webinar, it falls on you. It's your mission impossible that you have been given. So just 4 topics. You want to go through them with no specific outcome. I'm not going to tell you what the outcome should be. You're just going to talk about these 4 topics in the family gathering. And then the thing is to give everybody a chance to say something. Don't force anybody. You know, some people like to just make up them face and stay in a corner and don't say nothing, but just ask, you have anything to say about each of the 4 topics. And the only reason I'm giving you 4 topics is that you have an agenda. But please get it in your mind, you do not have a specific outcome in the first meeting. It's just to talk about these things. People need a time to absorb change. People need a time to adjust to things. People have all the emotions that are there about what the family is about, and all of those things are just going to cloud in there. Don't try and resolve all of that in the first meeting. Just go through these 4 topics. So talk about the physical hygiene. Hygiene can be a bad word, so just say it with a smile. Yeah, what we really mean is, you know, how we have to be conscious about hygiene, physical hygiene with this pandemic. And I'm going to give you a URL at the end about where you can get information about that. And then how we connect physically, we're not doing the mental or the emotionally, how we connect within the family, that has to be talked about and spelled out. Oftentimes we're just in a routine and we don't realize how much we might come in right off the street and just hug up or touch somebody's face or whatever. We just put that out there. And it might turn into a real like little funny thing, you know, so-and-so love to do this. I wonder if he or she is my brother or sister, because none of us don't do that. It might actually turn into something that is pleasant, hopefully. And then the next up is, what space do I need within the household for work and school learning projects? So being at the health center and manning one of the hotlines, the students are calling in about them being called all sorts of things in the family because they're going online and doing their classes. It just seems to be that they're wasting time with social media. Even when the parents walk by and see that they're on ORVLE or OURVLE, it's still the whole idea of being on the computer. So it has to be spelled out. If you're going to be, as an adult, working from home and there are certain expectations, that has to be put out there. There's no common sense about if I'm home and I'm still in school, or if I'm home and I'm still working, what does that entail? So give people a chance to spell that out. And then eat, sleep, pray. Who's going to cook? How is the cooking going to go? How are we going to allow people to get a good night's sleep? Because lack of sleep is the surest thing to increase our stress level and lower our critical thinking. So we want to say to our family, we are supporting each other in getting a good night's sleep. And then by pray, since we're in a multicultural and multi-religious world, by prayer, I mean people need their time to meditate and connect to their higher being or their inner being or whatever. People need their personal space. And how are we going to facilitate that in the house? So one person may say between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, I want the living room for myself. You're going to say, oh, all right, yeah, what to do with that? So the expectations about the personal space and the quiet time, and so it has to be discussed in the family. So when the person says the person said I want the living room for the whole of the afternoon, it may be one of those things that comes up in the first meeting that doesn't get resolved. You have to live with the chaos for a week, and then you have a second meeting. Any questions on this? Or comments? Good. Next slide. And then after the meeting, you being the one who has the thing, you could say, oh, that went very well. You know, we have established our new normals for our family. And I didn't realize how much we love each other. And if I'd known that this would work, I would have done this over and over, you know? That's one possible outcome. Another was that was awkward. So wedding, funerals, and now COVID brings out the worst in families. So this meeting might just erupt into chaos and finger pointing and all the hurts that have been there in the family. All of that may come up. And from a psychological point of view, that's just wonderful and great. We have means to deal with that, but you want to get it done. Since you're the one attending this seminar, you have to try again to have another COVID family meeting. So the only reward or feelings of accomplishment that you can get out of this first meeting is to know that it indicates that we need a second meeting. The purpose of the first meeting is just to put out there what are the expectations. But before you have the second meeting, when the first meeting was awkward, is you can contact one of us at the counseling unit and talk through what happened and what next can be happened. I don't know if you can screenshot that page. Those are our numbers for the medical officers, the psychiatrists, the counselors. There's supposed to be 2 numbers for the counselors, but work with that one for now. And the Western campus has 1. And then if you can screenshot that page also, the things that, if you want to do some preparation for things to talk about in the, or how to answer questions about physical hygiene and mental hygiene and stuff, that website is very good. But again, I don't want you to put the emphasis that you need to know everything. Just go through for the first meeting those 4 points. C'est ça.
Hey. Well, Dr. Shields, it's almost as if you have been reading from my manual, because just yesterday, in fact, I asked my daughters to make sure that they do a schedule to come up with ideas as to what our new norms will be. How will they share the devices in the household? How will they share their spaces? Because it is so important, because we're all together, right? And it's so easy for us to be flustered because we're into each other's spaces all the time. Right. You know, so if we have schedules and we abide by those schedules, then everyone will get a turn in their due season, and that will work. Another thing that I must point out is that for me, I have a little area. Anyone entering my house have to cleanse themselves from. Anything from the outside has to stay on the outside. On the outside, wash your hands, straight into the bathroom before entering the house. Maybe the bathroom is at the extreme for visitors, but definitely for those who are within my household, straight into the bathroom before you can proceed to do anything else. So yeah, I appreciate the pointers that you have raised, and it certainly resonates well with me personally. And these are some of the things that we are pushing for in our health and wellness committee. You know, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll leave it open for 2 minutes for questions and answers. Floor is open. And just to add that, I did talk to the health center, Dr. Chambers, and she had forwarded a link inviting us to visit their Orville platform. And so I have shared that information with my colleagues, and I'm quite sure persons will be accessing that website.
Okay. And I will be, thank you for reminding me of that. I will be uploading these 2 presentations onto that. So you can copy the information that you want from there.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I'm glad you're uploading, Dr. Shields, because there were some slides there that I think we could have just quotes from them around the library, just to remind, because I'm going back to the work situation, because I get sometimes concerned myself about, and as you said, there is no common sense. And I think I like that, because sometimes I get somewhat impatient with colleagues, because I see them gathering together in close proximity. And even though we've had a meeting and we have, you know, emails that come out and we have done big notices, and so we just have to keep doing it. But so I am glad that the presentation is going to be there, so we could probably pull a few, because they are like very real life. When you I can't remember all of them, but some of them resonated with me. I think we can have them put up at various places in the library just to remind staff, because the library is, it's one of the biggest departments. And so sometimes I feel very responsible for having staff on the ground. And then what if something happens? And you know, we become one of those. So it's almost like I'm constantly saying, maybe not so much like Genevieve but I say the mask, and I say about us not observing. It's difficult to observe the physical distancing sometimes, but I think if people are wearing their mask, it will help. So I'm going to be looking for the slides in the container. I did see that Mr. Heron sent us that ORVLE container link, which I didn't even know about, that the health center did have it. So that's good. I know a lot of persons too, they have family issues, like, as you said, who does what, who, especially in this time. We had a meeting just with women at church, a Zoom meeting, because we find that a lot of the women are more stressed out in families because there's an expectation that they will be doing the teaching with the children and also still carrying out all the other functions that have to be done. And so sometimes there is that kind of tension, but I don't know how people deal with it, you know what I mean? So I think it's good that about the meetings that you talked about, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, and thanks again, Dr. Shields, for sharing with us. And I'm quite sure we'll have you again to do some wonderful presentation with us and to help us through this new norm. Ms. Johnston, I do believe you have something you'd like to say to Dr. Shields.
Yes, Dr. Shields, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm expressing gratitude.
I was wondering how you're going to get the gift basket through the computer.
We'll find a way to drop it off. Dr. Shields, I'm just expressing gratitude on behalf of the Library Health and Wellness team and also my fellow co-workers. You raised some very important points, and I am very thankful for the COVID conscious declaration that can be made, and just asking persons to observe the protocols when you're within your space. You understand? You touched on work plan, and I do believe that the library is ahead or in line with that. You understand? The sites that you said that we could bookmark, those are really good sites with excellent information that each person will utilize, I'm sure. But just thank you very much for helping us to understand how to minimize stress level with your practicalities or your points on practicalities. So thank you very much again, and I do hope to have you again. Have a good day.
All right. I know you have to go, Dr. Shields, and I'd just like to add, you know, for many persons might not know that it was only Thursday we started communicating about this webinar and had it arranged. So I personally would just like to give you a big thank you for you and to Mrs. Heron Ferron, you know, for accepting our invitation at such late notice. You know, but you made it happen, and Mrs. Heron made it happen, and we are so indebted to you. We thank you very much for spending the time with us, and we are very appreciative of it. All right. Thank you.
Can I just add to something else? The family, Dr. Lester, that was really good. That I am sure, I didn't know, I didn't set up meeting time with family or meeting with family, but I'm sure other persons appreciated that also, because we tend to sometimes just, even though you said that there's no common sense, we tend to just think that, all right, this is what we should know, or, you know, so sometimes we leave the family to the side, but that is a very important point there. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. All right, Dr. Shield, go to your next meeting. Thanks.
Yes. I just want to say thanks, because this is an official work-related webinar, and so I'm saying again thanks to Mr. Heron and his wellness team, health and wellness team. And I don't know how we're going to get it out to everybody, which is why I told him that I'm grateful that this stuff is going to be in that container. Just some of the pointers about how we interact with each other at work, because it's so very, very important, and maintaining the protocols that we have. And we keep saying, oh, the thing is up there, so people should know, but we have to just keep reminding them. And I hope for the family, I thought that was excellent too, that he did something on families, because sometimes we focus a lot on work, as Nicole says, and we forget about the family and people. These challenges that people have in their families will come with them to work. And sometimes because we've been taking things just like that in our families, and we don't have any meetings and we don't put anything in place. The expectation is that when you come to work, why are they making such a big thing out of this? It's nobody not dead. I mean, blah, blah, blah. That sort of stuff. So I'm glad he twinned both because they impact. And then because we have this in place now for work, we're even more alert as to when I go home, what are some of the things that I'm going to be doing. So thanks to Mr. Heron, and thanks to his team, and thanks to everybody who are here, and those of you who know that members of your team were not present, really have to get the word across about today's webinar. Excellent. Thank you.
No problem, Dr. Carr. We're all in this together, and we just have to do what we have to do to make it work, you know, because this is family, this is our place, however we might think of it. This is where we spend most of our days. So I know the time was far spent, but I'm quite sure it was very interesting and fruitful. And so without any further ado, we'll turn over to Ms. Wall for the vote of thanks, and thank you very much for tuning in.
Yes, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to offer the vote of thanks for such an interesting and wonderful webinar. I'd like to thank all those who have assisted in making this webinar successful. Firstly, I'd like to thank the presenters, Mrs. Heron Ferron, for that very inspirational, motivational presentation, and Dr. Shields for that very practical and full of facts presentation that really let us think and really consider what we need to do in terms of family and workplace moving forward. I'd like to thank the campus librarian, Dr. Paulette Carr, for moral support and guidance and presence in this seminar. Also, thanks to Mr. Aaron for leading the way with the health and wellness webinar. I'd like to thank Ms. Sadler for setting up the Zoom link to make this happen. Finally, thanks to our wonderful staff who have turned out in such great numbers
Thank you so much for your continued cooperation. Once again, thank you everyone for your support and participation.
All right, and thanks everyone for being here, and stay tuned and see what's next for the Health and Wellness Committee. So I hope it was fruitful to you. Certainly was to me. So thank you very much for turning out, and do have a safe and productive rest of the day. Thank you very much.